Good morning. Welcome to My Compound Life. I'm your host, Jonathan. Thanks for watching my channel, My Compound Life. It's a channel where we build assets. We build great habits to manage all of our assets. And more importantly, we want to build freedom. And that will be financial freedom for all of us. For you, for me, for everyone. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to start today to talk about Bitcoin, because obviously this is a daily Bitcoin update, right? So let's take a quick look at Bitcoin price right now as of recording of the video on a Monday morning at around 10 a.m. Bitcoin price is around 91,900. If I look at the 15 minutes chart, it does seem we are trying to push forward. It does seem we are trying to move up. And that's very good, right? I'm getting a lot of X notification of people telling me that Bitcoin has got up to about 92,000 just now, right? So that's good. We are progressing. It does seem to me we had a weekend of, I don't like to use that word, weekend of manipulation, right? Essentially what that means, I think yesterday around noontime in the UK, not noontime, I think 2 or 3 p.m., Bitcoin just suddenly dumped from, 89,000 top-ish, 89,000 to about 87,000. So not a major drop, but pretty substantial drop of approximately 2,000 USD that has kind of resulted in about 171 million worth of longs liquidation, right? And then not long after, a couple of hours, I think less than 5 hours, maybe 3 to 4 hours later, it then pumped back for another 3,500. From 87,000 pumping back up to about 91,000. I think to some point it also reaches about 92,000, right? So in a small matter of 3-4 hours time, when things are at its quietest, right, on a Sunday, right, essentially that really shows when liquidity are very, very minimal in the market, that's when people or institutions will come in and manipulate. And for that short period of time, when Bitcoin jumped from 87 back to about 91,000 top-ish, I think approximately 75 millions worth of shorts got liquidated, right? So that is why, when I always talk about this in My Compound Life, I don't really encourage the use of leverage trading. Okay, so all you guys need to do is to have a hodl bag of Bitcoin that you just hodl for the long term, hodl that for your kids, for your grandkids, and so forth. You set the buy, you buy, you never sell, and every now and then after you bought, you shift that into your cold wallet, right? And then lock that away in a bank deposit safe box or somewhere, right? That's safe, right? That you or no one else can get access to it. And of course, you do have a swing bag that you buy low, sell high every now and then, so that you can take some lifestyle chips with you. It worked out well for me, so I hope that it will work out well for you guys too. So bear that in mind. If we look at the CMC Crypto Fear and Greed Index, we are still in extreme fear right now. Around 20 in extreme fear. I think it has been some improvement. Actually, it has dropped, right? So I think over the weekend, the manipulation has caused people to be even more fearful right now. But surely, I think, with Bitcoin, if we look through the 15 minutes chart right now, I think by the time US wakes up, things might take a turn for the better in terms of the sentiment. So I'm glad to report that Bitcoin are still going up right now. We are touching back on 92,000 USD, which is good, but at the same time not good enough, because we need to go and get through the resistance of 94,000. Okay, that's a very, very key resistance right now. If we cannot get through, it does seem we will go back and retrace back below 90K. Okay, so we really need to get through that 94,000. If we also quickly look through the Bitcoin quarterly return, so far for Q4, we are still minus or negative 19.66%. So just call it 20% negative, right? Bitcoin hasn't been doing negative return for Q4 for that many times over the years. But at 19.66%, it's actually pretty. It makes this quarter so far. I mean, we're halfway. I mean, we are only at the beginning of December, right? We're not even halfway. But so far, we are doing about 19.66% negative for this quarter, right? The worst quarter was actually in 2018, where Bitcoin did a negative 42% return. Okay, so we're not the worst, but we are actually the second worst so far at the beginning of December. But I certainly hope with the coming FOMC meeting, I think that will be on the 9th and 10th. So that'll be tomorrow and 10th. So do expect volatility, because I think usually these are the timing where market makers love, because you know what, if it's good news, Bitcoin will drop. If it's bad news, Bitcoin will drop even further, right? So that's when the market makers are trying to manipulate or to shake out people, or the big institution, the financial institutions are there to shake us out, right? So if you're not in a hurry to sell, right, just hold on to your bag, because there will be more positive news coming. It just feels like this is like the worst time to sell right away. Okay, so if you have already received a lot of gains so far, if you have bought in the 20,000 Bitcoin, 30,000 Bitcoin, even 16,000 Bitcoin, right? Because we have dropped from our previous all-time high of 126,000 just in early October. I reckon, if you're not in a hurry, just hodl, just wait after the FOMC meeting. Wait a little bit longer, at least wait until maybe January and February next year to really decide on what you want to do with your bag of, with your swing bag of Bitcoin. In terms of Bitcoin monthly return, we are currently at positive 1.33%. Okay, so I think we were at the negative earlier when I checked. That was a couple of days ago, right? So I think with Bitcoin peak back to about 91, 92,000, yes, we are in the positive. Historically, Bitcoin tends to perform pretty well in the last quarter of the year, October, November, December, right? However, we had a terrible October where Bitcoin returned negative 3.69%, followed by a terrible, ugly November where Bitcoin returned negative 17.67%. Now, so far, on the 8th of December, only 8 days of December, right? We have returned positive of 1.33%. And let's hope that we can keep that momentum and close the year with some greens, right? So I know all of us love green candle. And we might just get that, right? If FOMC, Fed does a 25 basis point rate cut, I'm actually hoping for a 50 basis point, but we'll see. I mean, any cut will be good because it's really indicating, Feds are getting more dovish, and essentially it will lead on to quantitative easing in January and onwards. Okay. So far, let's take a quick dive in terms of Bitcoin ETF, right? So these are the institutions, retail buyers buying through the more traditional channel, a little bit like our UK ETPs or ETNs for Bitcoin, right? So I've got data only for the US Bitcoin ETF. In last week, where we closed on the business day of the 5th of December, Bitcoin actually received outflow, right? So the net inflow was actually 87 million. So that was all outflow, negative 87 million. In comparison to the week earlier, we were actually around 70 million inflow, right? So whatever inflow we had, 2 weeks before, everything got wiped out last week. And of course, Bitcoin has had some beating since, especially post the liquidation, that major liquidation, long liquidation back in October the 10th. So we have been seeing for the past few weeks, it was actually all outflows, right? So for majority of November, so the 4 weeks of November, right? November, the week ending on the 21st of November, it was 1.22 billion outflow. Again, 14th of November, it was 1.11 billion outflow. The week that ended on the 7th of November, it was 1.22 billion outflow. And the closing of the months for October, so the week that have on the Friday, the 31st of October, it was again outflow of 798 million. Okay, so as you can see, essentially for the whole of November, we are just more outflows than inflows, right? And so far, although it's positive towards the end of November, it was a positive inflow, but certainly all the gains got wiped off again recently. I mean, for last week for Bitcoin ETF, right? So I am seeing this little trend based on Bitcoin ETF, and I actually do anticipate, once we've got plenty of sell off, there will be, things will start to pick up, and then there will be gradual more buy-ins in the coming weeks, right? So stay tuned. I think there will be more positive news coming for Bitcoin and crypto. I think many of you guys are actually looking forward for more crypto altcoin season coming. I think a lot to do with, number one is the interest rate cut followed by quantitative easing, right? So as I've mentioned a lot of times before, right, let's not jump into conclusion as soon as we've got a rate cut, right? Because 25 basis point rate cut, I don't think it's pretty much priced in terms of 100,000, Bitcoin, right? The price. So I do anticipate we may get a Christmas rally, right? But it's still insufficient to push the Bitcoin price to another all-time high, just based upon 25 or 50 basis point rate cut. However, I do see price to improve if we can get the price back, at least back to the 50 days moving average. That will be around 102 to 104,000 per Bitcoin in USD. So that would be a very key area for us to monitor whether we will be going back up to a slightly bullish market, or whether there will be a dead cat bounce. Okay, until we can see that, I am still quite bearish. Well, my swing back is pretty bearish, right? So that's why stay tuned. We'll see how it goes, and then if there are any sign of improvement, I'll let you guys know immediately. Okay, so that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all these subscribers. I just want to call a few of you guys out, right? Thanks for all of the subscribers. We are currently on 15 subscribers, so I'll be really grateful if you guys can become my 16, 17s, 18s, 19s, 20 of subscribers, right? Just hit the like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. But before I move on, I just want to call out one subscriber. I think it's William Davidson. Subscribed to me about, I think you might subscribe to me 2 days ago. I hope you did. But anyway, if you haven't, thanks for leaving me a message. He says, "Hi, MCL," that stands for MyCompoundLife. "I have been in crypto for over 5 years now, and I can still say that we are early. We definitely are early. But I don't tell my friends or family anymore to buy." That's actually very interesting. I kind of gone through that phase before too, right? So especially that phase started specifically last cycle, right? Because Bitcoin, crypto was so hyped out, right? And the last cycle, I was still on the fence of Bitcoin and crypto together, right? And I'm still heavily talking to my friends and family about Bitcoin and crypto together. But ever since we kind of gone through the bear market, the bear cycle, it does feel to me, damn, I gave them the wrong suggestion talking about crypto, right? So from that sense, what I did for the past couple of years, every time my crypto, my altcoin bags getting back into certain positive level, I try to pivot and shift, just swap them back into Bitcoin, right? And I feel much more happier now holding bigger bag of Bitcoin versus crypto. So in that case, I've gone through that phase. I don't really chat to my friends and families about crypto. And that's also the reason I'm starting the channel, because I don't want to be the crypto guy or the Bitcoin guy, right? So this channel, My Compound Life, is we build assets. assets can be a lot of things, right? Bitcoin can be one of it. And Bitcoin, by the way, is actually the fastest growing asset ever, right? So if you look through the data from when it was first inception until now, it's still returning a good and very decent sized CAGR, right? On a yearly basis, right? So this specific asset class has become kind of like a growth driving asset that helps me to pay off my other assets, let's say my properties, right? And to me, I mean, all I want to let you guys know is to stay the course and to stack hard assets, right? Hard assets essentially will be, I don't know, I would always deem them as my properties. Like properties, real estates are very, very good hard assets. Gold. Okay, I shouldn't be talking about gold in a daily Bitcoin update, but I still talk about it sometime, right? And of course, Bitcoin. It's also a very hard asset. So in a way, Bitcoin can be a very hard asset and at the same time, a very growth driving asset. A little bit like my Tesla shares, right? So, once you get into some gain, you start to sell off your swing bag of Bitcoin and start to pay off some of your other assets. That's how I do it, right? That's how I do it. Coming back to William's question, if they don't understand after me explaining in 100 times, you're absolutely right. If they don't understand after me explaining in about 3 or 5 times, then they will never understand until it is forced on them. I don't think it will ever be forced on them. But it just seems to me, if they don't understand after 3 or 5 times, to a certain extent, I kind of felt these individuals are people that doesn't really understand finance, personal finance, or even level of investment in finance, right? And one interesting thing that I want to raise, right? I think people in the UK are too overly conservative. They always think scams everywhere, right? But however, compared to friends and families in Asia that I dealt with versus people, friends and families in the UK that I dealt with, unless these are business individual, right, that understand investment, that understand CAGRs, right, they will appreciate my kind of information, right? For individuals that are content with their life, content with their 9 to 5, content with not wanting to take risks or not even wanting to have the properties management hassle, right? These are individuals, they'll never get into investment. So from this specific point, as soon as you kind of have conversation with certain people, you kind of pick that up immediately, whether they are investors or not, right? So we don't have to orange pill everyone, of course, but certainly every now and then when I come across certain assets like Bitcoin, in this specific case, I want to talk as much about it as possible. So that's why I've started this channel, MyCompoundLife, because if you do miss out on accumulation, right, this specific asset will get more and more expensive, right? But at the same time, for any of the people in the UK, for you to accumulate hard assets like real estate properties, Bitcoin, it is getting tougher and tougher and tougher, right? So that's why I always say, start early, set aside some money, accumulate, and at the same time, I talk about live below your means. Make sure you set some money aside for hard asset investment. I think that's the only way to move forward. Okay, so thanks for watching my video. Appreciate your time. Hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the bell. I don't know what the bell does, but just hit the bell anyway. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.